Hello, welcome into Caden's Weather Center here. We're paying attention right now to the tropics. That is our biggest, right now, this is our biggest concern that we need to pay attention to is the tropics. The tropics are right now our biggest concern because the tropics are starting to wake up as we do have around 88% of hurricane season left here. The islands are already having to pay attention to a storm right now. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, and possibly Cuba, need to be paying attention to this Invest 98L that we have out here in the MDR. So let's continue to pay attention to that. Let's head right into the video here. Right now, here's our area of interest right here. Very, very well organized of a tropical wave. Starting to see maybe a little bit of a spin starting, but very, very organized as we can clearly see. The National Hurricane Center is going to be sending out our plane on Monday. So, but very, very organized storm as we can clearly see as it's pushing over here off to the west. We want to keep an eye out if you live in the islands right here, and we also want to keep an eye out on Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti for the progress of this storm. So definitely something to be paying attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of hours and next couple of days. What could we be expecting here? It's very, very looking very organized here. Right now, and the National Hurricane Center does have a 30% chance for 2 days and an 80% chance for the next 7 days. So pretty good odds that the storm will form here in the next 7 days. Probably by early next week, we'll be seeing a possible tropical system. Taking a look here at the water vapor, I want to take a look here at the water vapor because this could, depend on the development, obviously. We can clearly see there's a little bit of dry air off to the front of it. There is some pretty moist air that it's all around, though. And as we're continuing to watch the storm progress, moving off to kind of more of the northwest here, it's going to run into a little bit of that dry air, but I do not think it's going to impact it as much. It might limit some type of development where it's not rapidly intensifying, but it definitely will have it a little bit more farther down the road to possibly intensify a lot more. These are the spaghetti models that we're paying attention to with Invest 98L. We can clearly see, the computer models, bringing it close to the islands, obviously. Puerto Rico, that's a big question here. Now some of the models, majority of the models now bringing it, turning just to the north before Dominican Republic and Haiti. So a little bit to be paying attention to. And then we watch Puerto Rico could possibly still be getting hit by a possible tropical system here. But definitely 96 hours you guys need to be paying attention to. But it will slow down once it starts to turn over here. So a little bit more of a slower type of system, as we can see. 72 hours right here, the 96 and 120. Not moving very quick for 3 days, so definitely want to keep an eye out, obviously, on that very, very closely. These are the intensity models. We're continuing to pay attention to, obviously, these intensity models. Majority of these models are already bringing it up into tropical storm status here. Probably most likely by the next 36 hours, we could be seeing a possible tropical storm. But we can clearly see we have some of these models bringing it up into Category 1 strength. The H-Wharf model bringing it all the way up here to Category 4. I mean, and definitely something, and both the hurricane models are bringing it up into a Category 4 and possible major hurricane. We're still anticipating maybe 3 to 6 more major hurricanes here, as we've only had one this season, but this is definitely something to pay attention to. Majority of the models keeping it just as a tropical storm as of right now, but it'll be a little bit more interesting when they get the plane in there and when we see what happens when it does develop and where it is headed. Taking a look here at the satellite picture right now for the Atlantic, we can clearly see we have a nice tropical wave. That's our area of interest that we're paying attention to. That's Invest 98L as that continues to move off to the northwest, and it's the west-northwest, I'm sorry, but it's looking very organized here. And then not just that, we have another tropical system that could be forming, or not another tropical system, but another tropical wave coming off of Africa that could possibly be marked by the National Hurricane Center. All depends on when the National Hurricane Center feels like it would be appropriate. That is for sure. Heading over here to the true color, though, because we are starting to get that, outlook here. Very, very nice looking here on the satellite here for that tropical wave. And then there's that right there. Seems like we do still have maybe a little bit of dust over here, kind of to the north of this storm. North of this tropical wave right here. Other than that, we might have a little bit of tropical wave over here in the Caribbean, but it's most likely very quiet over here in the Gulf of Mexico and most of the Caribbean and the North Atlantic. We're seeing a lot more quietness, but in the MDR, that is where we're going to start to see majority of our development starts. And if we head over here to the water vapor, we can kind of see here a little bit. It still has a little bit until it gets into some of that dry air that we can clearly see. This one is in very, very moist air, maybe a little bit dry air to the north, as I just said. something to be paying attention to if any storm gets through this, because that is a lot of dry air that we want to keep an eye out on, but it also depends on how strong these storms are, definitely. Taking a look here at the models right now, the more of the ensembles, that's what it's called. The ensemble models right now, we can clearly see are obviously the GFS ensembles right now, obviously picking up on a very, very strong, or a very strong possible tropical storm here heading into the islands. We could be seeing a possible tropical storm. Then we move off to the next couple of hours and days here. We can clearly see on Thursday, this could be where our storm possibly is. Anywhere in there is where our storm could possibly be. And then it will start to get pulled off to the north. That is for sure, according to some of these models. Now, we obviously can see some of these models, we still see some of these models head over here just south of Cuba. We're not anticipating that very, very much. Majority of the models bringing it over here into the North Atlantic and, more of the Atlantic. So we're going to keep an eye out, obviously, on that. And then the GFS ensembles are keeping track of a potential another tropical system that could form right over here in the MDR later on. I think this is a very slow start to the hurricane season, that's for sure, but we still have a lot more that we need to go. We have a lot more to go, so we definitely want to be paying attention to that. Let's head in over here to the European model for the ensembles here. We can clearly see the European ensembles kind of agreeing with the GFS, maybe keeping a little bit more of those storms off to the, I don't know why the map is white, but keeping more of the storms models off to a little bit more off to the west we could be seeing. So a little bit more off to the west there. Still a little bit more curve off to the north here. It all really just depends on where it is right here. Could we see a little bit more of a westward shift, or could we see a little bit more of getting pulled up a little bit quicker? It all depends. We'll have to keep an eye out, obviously, on that very, very closely. Taking a look here at the GFS model, the model run here, we're going to do the 00Zs though. Taking a look at the GFS right now, we can clearly see there's our tropical system that we're wanting to pay attention to very, very closely. There's our wave that we want to keep an eye out on, heading right through the islands we could be seeing. So possible right through the islands on this. We could clearly see that. And then we head on over here. This model run right here, the 00Z earlier this morning, brings it through the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then gets pulled to the north here, and then kind of just loops around in the Atlantic. But that could be something, even though if we look at the 6Z, I believe we're seeing kind of the same type of thing, maybe getting pulled a little bit to the north a little bit quicker. But, it's kind of different than the ensembles, so definitely something to pay attention to. That's why I said the Dominican Republic, even though the ensembles aren't really putting any storm on you, you definitely need to be paying attention to it as well. And same with Puerto Rico, because some of the models just bring it up to the north a lot quicker. So something to be definitely paying attention to as we go on throughout the next couple of days. Then we see, obviously, some more tropical waves here. See more tropical waves starting to form and come off Africa. That could be something that we want to also pay attention to very, very closely. Head into the European model, though. That's our, the GFS and the European model are the ones we mostly focus on here. Taking a look right now here at this, the European model takes it a little bit more weaker before it hits the islands here. Takes it a little bit more off to the weaker side, and then go through Puerto Rico here still as it may be a tropical storm. And then after it gets past Puerto Rico and all that, it starts to strengthen just east and north of the Bahamas. That's when we'll start to see the European think it will start to strengthen a little bit more. Then we can see it kind of go a little bit west of Bermuda. So I would definitely say Bermuda needs to be paying attention to the storm as well. So definitely want to keep an eye out, obviously, on that very, very closely. Something to be looking at very closely here. So let's take a look here at the ensembles, though, because I think the ensembles are something we definitely want to pay attention to as well. So the ensembles right here, the GFS ensembles, you can see majority of the models say it's going to be in this area, this region right here. Still a little bit split, but you can definitely see not really too big of an impact to the United States. We can see we have a couple of them getting very, very close to the United States, where the Carolinas could be possibly in play here, and especially the Carolinas do not need to be in play as they just got through Tropical Storm Debbie. Same thing with Florida, but it definitely seems like the GFS ensembles are keeping it more off to the east here. There's still a little bit of these models bringing it a little bit closer, but we'll have to keep an eye out, obviously, on that very, very closely here. And then we head in over here to the European ensembles here. We can kind of see a little bit more of a, I would say a little bit more of agreement here, right over here. But I would say when we go out a little bit more, the ensembles, bringing it a little bit more closer to home. So, but right now, I would just say, you know, majority of the models are bringing it over the Atlantic. It's not going to be too big of a pay attention to right now. Obviously, it's something to pay attention to just in case if something happens. But right now, we want to keep an eye out, obviously, on this very, very closely here, because I think we're going to still see a lot of the tropical weather continue throughout the rest of the month here, going into September and October as well, because we're still very far from, you know, having all of our named storms that we're anticipating. So thank you so much for watching. Please be making sure that you are subscribing, leaving a like, and please make sure that you are getting prepared just in case, especially if you live in the islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, or Haiti. Please make sure you are getting prepared for the storm just in case on what it could possibly be. There'll be another video update out later, and make sure to follow my X page down in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.